Let's get stuck in to a topic which is quite high up there for me in terms of frustration. And it's frustration with seeing it happen so much with players not on the plan, but also players on the plan. And it's going from injury and pain to bowling because I've done videos before about our 10-step process. Okay. There's a 10-step process to getting back to bowling after we've been injured. And it can be very different. Okay. So it can be a 10-step process where you've already put a hell of a lot of work in and you might have a little injury and be out for 1 or 2 weeks, which is very different to a stress fracture or something like that. Okay. But the key thing every time is to keep following the steps. I would say the biggest issue and the biggest issue we have if players do not get success from the plan is when they're out of pain, which happens pretty quick with most of our players, but then they get impatient or just don't ask the right questions or don't follow the plan and jump back into bowling, whether it be in nets and games or whatever. The number of times we get messages and say, "How you getting on?" Oh, a little bit sore. Okay, what you been doing? I've been playing. We're like, what? Why are you playing? It's like we want players to play, but only when you're ready. Because there's no point playing if we're not ready and we're going to this continual cycle of play in pain, get injured, rest for a little bit, feel better, and jump straight back in. Because we're seeing this all the time, all the time. And it's so frustrating because this is our big area. And I firmly believe what Cricket Strength does to help bowlers from injury back to playing and then keep away from injury when followed, which is the key nuance in here, you have to follow what we say, is the best in the world, bar none. Absolutely bar none. Because the metrics we go into, the depth we go into, the steps we go into, make sure more than anything else that we're really, really close. We tick everything off to make sure we've done jumping, landing to start, and then jumping, then running, then agility, then medi balls, then half kneeling bowling. We're doing all these things to make sure we're ready. So then we can say to a high degree of certainty, right, we've done all we can here. Now we're ready to bowl. But then it's 3 steps as well. Okay. So let's just share my screen a second. So we've got bowling here. Okay. But what are the steps to bowling? Like we said, it might be isometrics to start. Are we doing front foot contact, back foot contact work? Because that counts as bowling type work. Okay. Are we then doing the medi balls? So we're actually working now at a high velocity, starting with the global type stuff, which is slams and things like that, and then getting into specific with the lighter medi balls and really focusing on technique in and around back foot to front foot transition. Okay. Are we doing half kneeling bowling? Because again, that then takes us up a stage again. So we've got decent velocity. And what we're seeing with the testing we're doing when we're looking at arm speeds with medi balls with a 5K slam, we're seeing between 7 in low 9s meters per second. Whereas half kneeling bowling, we're seeing up to 13 meters per second. So there's a jump in velocity there. Okay. And that's getting us a lot closer to where we want to be with bowling. So have we ticked each of these things off? That's key. And then we get into the actual bowling side. But first, we have to be bowling conditioning. Okay. So bowling conditioning is where we add the bowling into the drills. It's like the safety net. Okay. The safety net. So we might be doing an isometric hold, might do an isometric hold, then into a medi ball drill, then into some half kneeling bowling, maybe, and then into some bowling. When we're doing that, we're creating the neural pathways of, again, what we want to see. We want to see good back foot contact. We want to see the most important thing is that back foot contact to front foot contact position. And we want to see this being nailed. Okay. And we see it in bowling conditioning. When, say, we've done 4 sessions of bowling conditioning, then we can take it into net bowling, no batter. Okay. So then the key thing is prep. Are we doing the pre-game prep? Because that's another thing we suddenly see when we dig in, saying, right, did you get your prep done? What prep? And that's not a good answer. We have provided so many videos. All you've got to do is either go into the Facebook page and type in a search bar warm-up or prep or activation, or do exactly the same thing on the one-to-one page, and you'll get the videos we've done. So many videos. There's no excuse here. There's no excuse. We're still getting people asking what stretching we should do after bowling. It makes me want to shoot myself in the face, because the amount of times we say we do not stretch, we find the issues, we're doing the soft tissue every night. We do not stretch. If we're not looking for these answers, I'm thinking, are we serious about what we're doing here? Because we're deadly serious. We're deadly serious about this, because we want everyone to be doing the best they can. So after we're doing net bowling with no batter, then we're going to be net v batter. No, that's competition mode. So then, that run up has got to be on point. Got to be on point. Every time you bowl a delivery to a batter in a competition scenario, that run up has to be on point. I will not accept half a run. I will not accept no balls. It's got to be match scenario based. And again, when we're in match scenario, what are you trying to do? If you've got 4 or 5 overs, what are you trying to do with those 4 or 5 overs? Are you practicing opening the bowling? So you're hitting top of off. You're hitting the area. Are you practicing for the back end of the game? What are you doing? Do not just go through the motions. Everyone does that. Waste of time. Get something out of every net. Okay? So once we've done 4 of those, we're then ready for the match. But then how many overs? How many overs are you going to be bowling? Do you know? Okay, if you've gone through all this and we've done, say, 4 sessions of this, four sessions of this, and 4 sessions of this, chronically, you're going to be around 15 to 20 overs a week. So you can then get at least 10 overs out in your match, because we've ticked all these things off. And look at those stages in here. Look at these stages, and we have to get each one right. If we get in any pain with isometrics on back foot contact, we have to stay there longer and figure out what's going on. The same with med balls, the same with half kneeling bowling, the same with the bowling conditioning. Each stage, if there's a red flag somewhere in here, say it's just bowling net with no batter, if there's a red flag there, we've got to investigate. We have to investigate. And that's how deep we go into all these stages. So when someone's out of pain and they're missing all of these out and going straight there, or even straight here into net bowling v batter, we're missing so much fundamental work. We're missing laying that foundation, laying those neurological pathways of being back bowling, feeling good, understanding what we're trying to do. But the big thing is having the confidence, because when you tick all these things off, by the time you get to here, this match, you've got the confidence because you've done all this prep work. Everything's been done. You know you're ready. You can go for it. Not a problem. But just jumping straight there is madness. And there is no reason for it. I do not care. The only time I would say maybe is if you've got a massive, massive game coming up and it's a gamble. A massive gamble. If you've got to be picked for a team or something like that, or it's a final, you're not going to be ready for it. But if you're the best player, whatever, and we choose to say, right, this isn't perfect, but we'll give it a go. That's the only time. The rest of the time, what we're seeing is people being pushed back into playing for no good reason. For no good reason. And it is maddening because, like I said, I've got no ego, but I know we're the best in the world at what we do because we've been doing it for so long. We've got the pathways. We know how to get someone. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. We've done it time after time after time. We know how it works. So if you're ignoring what we do and just going for the ostrich approach of putting your head in the sand, thinking, no, we're going to do it anyway because we know better than Juicy, we know better than Gav, even though they've been doing it for so long and it works, then have a little look at yourself. If you're a parent, you do it with your kid, have a little look at yourself. What you're doing. You've got us at your fingertips to do this. Plus, if you're a youngster, why are we looking so short term? Why? We need to be looking long term. We want that bowler to be bowling at 16, 17, 18, at 30, at 40, not just getting them back for a game when they're 15. What are we thinking? Long term, it's got to be. This short termism is absolutely crazy. Okay. And looking at all this whole thing here can just take a month. That's not that long in the grand scheme of things. Okay. Notice there's no, I've just jogged in off a couple paces. I've done some walkthroughs. There's none of that bullshit because that is bullshit. It's not even bowling. One, we're putting more pressure on the back because we're getting the momentum. And two, it doesn't look anything like your action. You know, you can look like however you want with walkthroughs. It's simple. We need to be going at a high percentage, which is why we tick off all these things. You know, so say we're bowling it, half Newland bowling with a 13 miles per second arm speed, meters per second arm speed there. You know, we want to know we're up around that when we're bowling as well, because we want to be working within 70%. You know, 70% is the lowest we go when bowling. We do not deal with any of these walkthrough bullshit. Please do not do it. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'll open it up for any questions. Anyone at all?
I think it's interesting the outside pressures as well. I think especially some of the junior players, you have school coaches, you'll have different coaches that will put pressure on players to come back quicker. Not that there's any sense of need. We provide all the information, but also I think that that's one thing. I think the other side of it is when people have an injury, their process is, does it hurt anymore? No, let's go. I mean, that's the culture, isn't it? Outside of professional sport.
Yep. And here's something that I've done a little bit with some youngsters with this side of things is if there is pressure from a school teacher who's basically a PE teacher whose knowledge is so severely limited on this sort of thing, or a club coach or something like that, or anyone, and you give them my name and my number, and you say, ring Juicy, speak to Juicy, rather than put the hit on the parents. The parents get a lot of this. They get it in the neck. When's he going to be playing? When's he going to be playing? When's he? They're putting so much pressure on him. Get him to ring me. Not a problem. Not a problem. Because I'll speak very, very straight to them. Very straight. And it drives me mad, you know, particularly with the youngsters. But, you know, when we're talking about this, then we're talking about everyone because we see this all the time. If you're out of pain, so I'm going to play. And you're doing everyone a disservice, yourself, your team, us, everyone, because you're not going to be anywhere near your best. Plus, there's a very good chance you're going to get hurt. In our number one thing here is to have you fit playing. And if you do that, you follow what we do and follow what we say and follow what we put in your plan and you're fit, we know the results will come with it because we're not one dimensional. We put everything together. But the first thing is to follow it physically so we know where you are. Okay. Excellent. Cool. So, any of you guys got any questions? Absolutely no problem if not. No? Cool. So, I am going to be on tomorrow at 11 for any other Q&As. So, bring your questions there. And we will be back, or Moz will be back. Where's
Might
my
as well.
no, yeah. So me and Charlie will be back on Monday. Okay. Thanks for coming, everyone. See you later.